Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today I'm going to be talking about my favourite novellas. So novellas are a bit hit or miss for me. Like sometimes I really like them and I feel like they're really good, like contained story. But then other times I just feel like something's missing and I want more. So I feel like I'm quite fussy with novellas because I feel like novella writing is such an art. Like if you do it well, they're amazing, but sometimes I feel like they're just not quite like there. But yeah, any authors that can write an amazing novella, I feel like have so much respect from me because I feel like it's such a talent. So we're just going to be talking about all my favourite novellas that I've read today. So yeah. So the first one I'm going to mention is the Singing Hills Cycle by Niggy. And these are some of my favourite novellas. They're just so like comforting and just, yeah. So the first one is Empress of Salt and Fortune. And the second one is When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain. At the moment, my favourite is When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, out of the two. But I love them both. I gave them both 5 stars. It's like, Nigi's writing is just like this warm hug and it's so kind of lush and like evocative almost. And it just like speaks to your soul, I feel. And the first one is very like feminist and empowering, and so is the second one actually. And they both have sapphic relationships, which is so cool, and they're both kind of told in this style. So we follow Chi, who's this monk, and they kind of go around collecting stories. So in the first one they're getting the story from this old handmaiden of the empress, and this empress was like a powerful figure, but she was kind of sent away to this like handmaiden's lodge or something, and there's a lot of like feminist themes and stuff, and then she's kind of finding out this story from handmaiden. And then the second one, she and this other traveller, I can't remember their name, but travelling across these mountains, and they're kind of waylaid by these 3 tigers. And in order to convince the tigers like not to eat them, they tell this story, and the story is about a tiger spirit kind of falling in love with this like scholar, and it's really good. And the tigers kind of correcting Chi as they go along, like because they have kind of the tiger's point of view and then she has like the human's point of view, so it's kind of meeting in the middle, and it's really good. So yeah, they're just both such great novellas. They're so comforting and so kind of just, if you need something to kind of refresh your reading life, then I would highly recommend both those. So yeah. And the next we have The Deep by River Solomon, and this is a really good novella. It's kind of, I think it's based on a song, and you can actually kind of feel that throughout the book because it feels very like lyrical, and it almost, I don't know what the kind of, it feels like you're being told like a song, like, you know, when in like olden times, like not caveman times, but like medieval times, no, before that, whatever the kind of, before like medieval, but like after kind of Egyptians. I'm so bad at history. Yeah, the kind of like I don't know, like the 200s AD type time, I don't know, where they were like told around the campfire and like singing songs and stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, it matches my outfit, but yeah, this is how my brain works. It's like yeah, so it kind of feels like that, and we're following the main character, and she's kind of has this like burden. So they're mermaids essentially living under the sea, and they're kind of the descendants of slaves who were going from Africa to America, and they're kind of like dead children were thrown overboard, and they've kind of morphed into these mermaid creatures. And so the main character, she kind of has this burden of remembrance. So she has to remember all her kind of ancestors, but the rest of the mermaids all like forget. So it's a story about like how important it is to remember your past and the kind of intergenerational trauma of that, and how kind of placing that burden all on one person isn't really a good idea, and how like you have to share that burden kind of thing. So it's really good, and I'd highly recommend it. And River Solomon is also a great author, like their writing is so beautiful. So yeah, that's that one. And the next we have another one of my favourite authors, and that's Becky Chambers and To Be Taught If Fortunate. So this is such a good novella, especially if you like kind of ecology and like discovering new alien species, because basically it doesn't have a huge amount of plot, but we're just following this like discovery ship, and they go to each different planet and kind of chart the biology there and like learn about it and stuff. And I feel like it just made me so nostalgic for like my biology A level, which that was my like least favourite A level if you're interested, I did maths, chemistry and biology, and I always feel like biology was the one which like was a bit of a chore. But it made me like, I do like biology, like I'm doing medicine, so I obviously have to like it, but this one just made me so like, oh. And I love kind of the like when it's in space, similar to The Martian, and there's like the botany in space, and this one's like the kind of biological exploration in space and like learning about these new species and like the plant life in the different planets. And I just found it so cool. And yeah, the characters are really great. You don't get to know them a huge amount, but what you do know of them, you really fall in love with. And Becky Chambers' writing is another one which is just like a warm hug. And yeah, and it's really good. I love the quote at the start of this. I think it's an actual like quote. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I think it might be at the back actually. From the UN, someone in the UN. There we go. So, as the Secretary General of the United Nations, an organisation of 147 member states who represent almost all the human inhabitants of planet Earth, I send greetings on behalf of the people of our planet. We step out of our solar system into the universe, seeking only peace and friendship, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. We know full well that our planet and all its inhabitants are but a small place of this immense universe that surrounds us, and it is with humility and hope that we take this step. So I think that's a real quote rather than just a like fictional from the world of the book. But yeah, I especially the phrase like to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate, because I feel like, yeah, education is such a privilege, and like there's so many countries in the world where girls especially don't have access to education, and we don't always realise like how much privilege we have to be kind of educated and like taught. And yeah, it's just such an honour to get to know everything about the world. And yes, so that's this one, and I just love it. So yeah. And then next we have, these are kind of maybe cheating slightly, but I love them, so I had to include them. And that is Edge Dancer and Dawn Shard from the Stormlight Archive. Because like it won't be a video without some Cosmere, or oh, I just whacked myself in the face. Some Cosmere or Brandon Sanderson. And yeah, so Edge Dancer is the book 2.5 and Dawn Shard is book 3.5. I feel like almost Dawn Shard especially, you could kind of read it without really knowing much context of the Stormlight Archive. I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of its own little contained story. Maybe. You have to let me know if you agree with that. But yeah, so Edge Dancer, we're following Lift, who's one of the characters, and this one's just so much fun. Like, Lift's so funny, and I love her Spren Windle. So in the Stormlight Archive, you have these like Spren things, and they're like little, they're not creatures exactly, like little sprites kind of, who have like personalities and they can like bond to people. So Lift's Spren Windle, and he's so funny. He's like this little anxiety thing, and he's always trying to convince Lift not to do things, and then he gets like really anxious when Lift does them, like, oh mistress, should we be doing that? But yeah, oh, I love Windle so much. And yeah, this is really fun. It's kind of, I feel like it's Lift trying to discover these like 10 pancakes, but like actual things happen. And if you've read Stormlight Archive, I would really recommend this, because we also get a bit of Seth in this book and his kind of situation and how that, so like the jump from him in Words of Radiance to Oathbringer, I feel like this just fills in a bit of the gaps. And then in Dawn Shard we're following Ryston, who is going on this ship on this mission to try and discover what's happening on this mysterious island, because everyone who's been in the past like mysteriously disappears. And it's so good, like the ship, and it gets all haunted, and it's like the mists and the ship, and I just love it. And Ryston's such a great character. And then she also has some other characters on the ship with her, like Cord, who's Rock's daughter. But like Ryston and Cord, I ship it so hard. It's almost like a kind of princess chosen one and a bodyguard type trope, and and then there's also the scholar Rishu, who's so cute and funny. We also have Lopen, who's like this comedy character, which I don't love him, but like it was okay. And I just love like getting to know more about the kind of world through, because like you see a different kind of element and area of the world like through the novellas, because the kind of main books were very much focused on sort of the Shattered Plains or like Urithiru. So yeah, you get an expansion of the world, and I just love them. So if you've read the Cosmere or Stormlight Archive without having read the novellas, I'd highly recommend. And if you're not really interested in the Cosmere, then sorry. So the next we have the Black Tides of Heaven and the whole Tenserate series. So I feel like the Black Tides of Heaven is the first one, but there's actually 4. And in this one, we're kind of following these two twins as they're growing up. And basically they're kind of, I think they're brought up gender neutral, and then they get to choose which gender they want to be. And so one of the siblings chooses to be a woman, and then the main one we're following chooses to be a man. And he then sort of goes on this sort of self-discovery journey, and it's very good. But then also at the same time there's this plot happening, and the actual siblings themselves, they're like royalty, and the sister is kind of running this like rebellion type thing, and then the brother kind of runs off and does his own thing for a bit, but then he comes back to like get involved. And I would say they're kind of silk punk, I feel like is the genre, like steam, I don't know, I've heard Tammy talking about it, and I feel like I don't know a lot about it, but I feel like it just fits the description. They're kind of steampunky, but not quite. I don't know if that really makes sense, but yeah. So it's a really good novella, especially around kind of gender identity and like the influence of society on that. But also the main character, I think it's Akira, something like that, and I love him. He's so precious. And then I think the second one follows the kind of sister's story, which is interesting, which I haven't read yet, but I definitely want to get to them all this year. But yeah, so I would highly recommend that. And then we also have Burning Roses, which is another novella. A lot of these I feel like are Tor.com novellas. Well, I love Tor.com. I feel like I'm trying to like kiss ass to them for that Electo the Ninth arc. But yeah, so this one we're kind of following these two characters, and they're sort of reflecting on their past. Fairy tale characters. Yeah, and I feel like it's retelling a story. I was not well prepared for this video. But I feel like one of the characters, I think, she's like a Red Riding Hood type character. And I think it's Red Riding Hood. I'm just getting this all messed up. Yeah, it's basically a story kind of redemption and looking back on sort of past wrongs and whether you kind of deserve to be forgiven for that. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful story, and I really loved it. It's quite short, but I feel like it's one of those novellas which just kind of fits perfectly as a novella. Well, all these on this list do. Well, I guess with the exception of the Stormlight novellas, but they're really good novellas. But I feel like in the wider context of the Stormlight archive. So yeah, but yeah, this is a really good one, so I'd highly recommend. And then next we have the Binti books by Niddy Okemfor, and the first one, Binti, and the second one is like Binti Night Masquerade, and then the third one is Binti Home, or maybe I got the last two mixed up. But basically in the first one we follow Binti, and she is leaving for this university in space, and she's basically the first one of her like people to kind of leave the planet. And on the way on the ship there, the ship gets attacked by these like jellyfish men people thing, and Binti's the only one that's left alive of the humans. So she then tries to like befriend the jellyfish people and like sort that out, and she basically becomes this sort of ambassador type thing. And then in the second one we're following Binti as she goes back home and what kind of happens there with these aliens. And yeah, it's a really good sci-fi series, and it has a lot of themes of kind of like what is home, and also like the kind of the people that she's from are sort of indigenous peoples and their kind of struggles and how they sort of interact with the world at large, and like their kind of culture being affected, not attacked, but almost like attacked, like yeah. So I don't know the proper term to describe it. Like I always like lose words from my head whenever I'm filming. Like my brain capacity goes okay, and then finally we have the Murderbot books. Oh, I love Murderbot. They are such an iconic character. Like they're so funny. They're basically this like Murderbot. So Murderbots are these kind of like security bots who like the humans can hire, and they'll be like yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Like these kind of fighting robots. And basically Murderbot doesn't like doing this. They just want to like sit in their little pod and like watch episodes of their like TV show called Sanctuary Moon. But slowly Murderbot kind of gets involved with the humans and like learns that humans can be nice to them, and just following that. And then they come up in the first one, they sort of get embroiled in this like strange conspiracy of this kind of land. Something's happened to this sort of settlement type thing, and then they're trying to discover what's happened. And then in the like next few months, at one point Murderbot becomes a sort of fugitive thing, and they also encounter other AIs on their like journey. Like this character called R in the second book. He's so funny. He's like this big transport ship. He's like the best cinnamon roll, and Murderbot sort of recruits him to watching Sanctuary Moon, and oh, it's so good. And then in the third one, he kind of meets this bot that's been treated really nicely by her humans, and then Murderbot's kind of dealing with that, and I can't remember, I think it's like the fifth one, and then Murderbot ends up like cloning himself, and then suddenly there's loads of Murderbots, and I think it's Murderbot 3.0, who is the cutest little cinnamon roll ever. But yeah, so no, it's a really good series, especially if you like sci-fi, and if you're looking to get into sci-fi, I feel like it's a really good place to start, because they're quite short, first of all, and the audiobooks are really good, but I feel like the science is there, but it's not too complicated, and like, because their novellas, the kind of world building is a bit contained, so you're not like overwhelmed. So yeah, so that is all my recommendations. Let me know in the comments what your favourite novella is, unless you tell me, because I already know. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I hope you're all having a great day, and I will see you next time.